And a very good Wednesday evening to you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. And gosh, it's been a busy week for winter weather. We've seen a lot of different snow systems. The most recent one is a clipper that brought a lot of snow last night and today. But Joe, now we have another system on the way. Do you want to tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, we also had some freezing drizzle today. I had to use the wipers a little bit earlier today coming
Not fun.
Yeah. So yeah, we're dealing with Maya, as you described it, a clipper coming through out of Canada, and because it's clipping the area, moving through, and now we're going to end up with some lake effect snow behind that, kicking in tonight through tomorrow. Let's take a look. I want to show you our weather cameras. Now, if you're looking at the Gaylord and Traverse City cameras, the Gaylord one is iced over, and ditto that at Traverse City. That's some of that freezing drizzle we had. So, well, hopefully it'll melt off at some point. Mackinac City, some snow there. We've had some heavy snow in the Straits area, although it's a little bit better right now. Visibility, you can at least see the spans of the towers there, and kind of a festive look there in Cadillac at the Christmas tree up, a little bit of snow. So around northern Michigan, we do have winter storm warnings in pink, and then winter weather advisories in purple. So as far as these areas are concerned, in the pink shading, that's where we have a winter storm warning, 4 to 10 inches of snow through Thursday into Thursday evening, with areas of blowing snow and low visibility, some hazardous travel. And then you head east, and that's where we have a winter weather advisory for 2 to 4 inches of snow through tomorrow. Blowing snow, not as bad to the east, but still reduced visibility there along US 23, for instance. So that's an area that we're also watching, but winter weather advisories there. Look at radar right now, just kind of give you a picture of what's happening currently. There is a cold front. Get the old computer, there we go. It's like old Bessie, come on, here we go. But there's some of the snow, you can see it there. And it's fairly widespread. This is actually our cold front passing by, and then the lake effect snow will start kicking in behind that. If you do have travels the next couple of days, just a general look at that. If you're in the snow belts tomorrow, we're gonna go pour. But away from there, as you get away from the snow bands, you might see some sunshine. So we'll go caution overall tomorrow around the north, and then some scattered snow showers around Friday, and mainly north on Saturday as we look ahead the rest of the week into the weekend. So Maya, we're gonna have more on that. Of course, everybody wants to know how much snow. I'll look at that. And the extended forecast, there's a little warm up too for 2 days, it looks like.
Okay.
And we'll have more on that in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Joe. And speaking of travel conditions, we've had a crew out on the roads this evening. We checked in with them at 5 o'clock and then again at 6 o'clock. And the roads looked very different at 6 o'clock than they did at 5. So let's bring our crew in, and Cody Bear is joining us live now. They are still out on the roads. Cody, how's it going out there?
Maya, it's been okay. Right now we're on M22, still in Grand Traverse County off of US 31, and it's been all right. You can definitely tell that the plows are coming through and doing their job. But as you mentioned, it looks a lot different now than it did at 5 o'clock and at 4:30 and even really at 5:30 because that snow is actively and pretty consistently coming down.
And we saw right away a plow come through. So you've seen, I'm assuming, a lot of plows out there tonight.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them, from big ones to trucks with just plows on the front. Definitely a lot. They're doing their job, and we appreciate them.
And one thing that Joe mentioned, not only are we seeing some snow, but also wind. Is that impacting the driving conditions tonight?
Absolutely. Are you a Star Wars fan, Maya?
No, but you can give a reference. I probably won't get it, but I'm sure others will.
Some people will. Well, when they show the Millennium Falcon or the Death Star, or even just some of the other ships, and they show where they're shooting through space, and they show the windshield, and it's just stars coming at the screen.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's kind of what it looks like. That's kind of what it looks like when the snow and the wind is just pushing that snow into your windshield.
And of course, I'm assuming you guys have been mostly on the main state roads. Have you checked out any of the back roads this evening?
Yeah, we've taken some looks. We've passed a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they're definitely in different shape. They're in worse shape than some of the main roads, which is expected. Some of the main roads, you can kind of see the tracks because not only maybe are they being more plowed, but even more so, they're being driven more. So you see those tracks and maybe the strip in between where the tires are hitting. But on some of those back roads where they're not driven as much and that snow is just accumulating and piling up, it's much harder to see any of the road.
And after driving on these conditions for a couple hours and being in the truck, do you have any tips for folks who do have to get out on the roads tonight?
Yeah, if you absolutely have to get out, just be safe, go your speed, don't be afraid to throw on the hazards. And really, a lot of it is you're trying to stop, and it's much harder to stop quick. So give yourself that time, and don't feel pressured by people behind you. Just go a safe speed, what's safe for you.
Going off of that, how fast have you been going? Can you give me an example of like what the speed limit is on the road you're on versus how fast you're traveling?
Yeah, sure. The speed limit on this one right now is 45. We definitely have been avoiding going above 35.
Yeah.
Really, that 30 to 35, especially when kind of right now it's much harder to see the road. We'll slow it back down to that 25 to 30. But even when you're seeing it well, it's kind of a trick almost, because even when you can kind of see it, it's still wet. So you definitely want to still go lower. We've hit around that 30 to 35. Trying not to go past 40 because it is still wet and slick and you don't want to slide all over the place.
Sure. I just want to mention that because when we take these cameras from our storm team truck, it always looks like you're going a lot faster in the camera than you actually are. So I think that's worth mentioning that they're not speeding, they're going it nice and slow, taking it easy tonight. So Cody, anything else you want to mention about the road conditions?
Yeah, as they get worse, it is a lot tougher to drive on. We actually stopped at Meyer in between the 5 and 6, and just I asked a few people. I got out and I asked a few people. I was curious about people at the grocery store. Are you just grocery shopping to grocery shop today, or are you really stocking up because you don't want to drive? And a lot of people, that actually surprised me, told me, "Oh, this is just a quick cookie run. We're not too worried about having to drive back out." Which, to be fair, I'm from North Carolina. We get 1 inch of snow and everyone's heading to the grocery store. You can't find bread or milk for a week.
Yeah.
But it kind of shocked me. A lot of the people are comfortable driving on these roads, which is great. But if you can get out ahead of it, I would advise it because the roads are still dangerous.
Sure. We are pretty used to this here in northern Michigan. So, Cody, you folks drive safe getting back to the station. Thanks so much for giving us that live report on the current road conditions and talking about just the weather and how it's impacting all forms of travel. Of course, it could impact your evening commute, just going to the store. It could also impact any flights. So, looking at Cherry Capital Airport's website right now, they have quite a few flights that I'm looking at the arrivals. They have a few that are delayed. As of right now, a lot of them have arrived, maybe a little later than normal, than what they originally scheduled, but a lot of them have arrived. The ones that are scheduled for the rest of the night in the morning, they're scheduled on time. And let's take a look at departures. So a lot have arrived, a few delayed, one in the air right now. No cancellations out of Cherry Capital Airport as of right now just yet. But our reporter, Daniel Zivian, had quite the experience today flying, and he is now back in Traverse City. But Danny, it sounds like it took you a while and maybe a bit of a headache to get back to Traverse City.
It absolutely was, Maya. I am safe and sound back at the station in my civilian clothes. And yeah, it was a rough day. I was supposed to be back here in Traverse City around noon, let's say. Flight did leave on time. The flight was going pretty darn well. As a matter of fact, we were over Traverse City when we had to turn around to Detroit. And the pilot came out to the gate after we had gotten back to Detroit and explained all of this to us. And according to this pilot, and I asked if he could interview afterwards, and he had to decline. I imagine that's company policy for Delta. Yeah. The way he described it was this: we were coming into the approach. It had nothing to do with the weather on the ground or an icy runway or anything like that. What he says was, as he was coming into the approach, an anti-ice feature on the plane did not activate or would not cooperate, as he put it at one point. And he and the first officer were like, "Okay, we're going to try one more thing. We'll circle a little bit and then we'll try to go in with more power," I think is the way he put it. I think it had to do with more speed. Maybe the idea was the faster we go, maybe less ice will accumulate. And the way he put it was, ice accumulated so fast that in his 9 years of flying, he had never really seen anything like that.
Wow.
And he announced, now, who knows whether this was the right thing to do. I'm sure there's someone from the airline industry that could tell you whether this is really proper form or not. But he told us, the public passengers, that he was saying very specifically to Delta and the airports that he did not want to fly that aircraft again. That even if we did go back out, it would have to be with a different crew. He sort of stuck to that. That alone wasn't the cause of the delay. Of course, the weather was pretty bad, and it did take Delta time to find someone who would fly it. What ended up happening is I was all ready to come back tomorrow. I was like, all right, I'll give up, go back home, try again tomorrow. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a pilot and first officer show up. They had just landed from Traverse City, and they said, oh, we think it's fine over there. We can do it. They called a mulligan, and within 30 minutes, I went from thinking I'm going to be back here tomorrow at the very least. We'll see what happens. Suddenly, we're up in the air again, and we're back here. And so, yeah, this has been an absolutely crazy day. I'd like to think that maybe I planned this. This is my way of giving you an investigative report, the inside scoop on some post-holiday travel. But why would I put myself through that?
No one would do that.
That's the real question. Why would I do that?
Oh,
so this was just genuinely just trying to get back home. I still have a ways to go. I got a car to clean off. I've got equipment to pack, and I thought, I have to share this story with you because this is kind of what this time of year is about. This is kind of what our bread and butter is. This is what we're reporting on. And at the end of the day, I also have to just be very grateful to the flight crew. At the end of the, they were all exemplary. And, I've never met a more helpful gate agent in my life at gate B5 at the McNamara terminal at Detroit Airport. So it was nice to end up flying home twice over the course of my break. Wouldn't want to do it again.
Sure. And I think the interesting thing about your experience is it wasn't, like you mentioned, necessarily the conditions on the ground in Traverse City. It was actually in the plane and that anti-freeze gear that just wasn't really kicking in.
Absolutely. It just goes to show, things can really change. Of course, a plane that's looking at taking off right now might not only take the overhead conditions, but now at this point might also be taking the ground conditions into account as the snow has been accumulating.
Yeah.
You saw the perspective of the storm team coming here to the station. I saw that perspective myself as stuff was accumulating. And downstate, I'm sure Joe has probably talked about this, but downstate, we just haven't really had that. We've had some snow. It's stuck a little bit, pretty light. None of this record snowfall and Gaylord stuff, that just hasn't shown up in the Detroit area yet. We're getting shellacked up here.
And this is a perfect example of the cliche that we hear a lot, especially this time of year, pack your patience. But really, when you are traveling, especially if you're flying and you can't really control a lot of the outcome, you have to be flexible and it's okay to be frustrated because what you experienced today is frustrating. You were expected to hop on a plane for 40 minutes, that flight from Detroit to Traverse City, and it probably took you, I don't know how many hours to actually get back, but a lot longer than 45 minutes.
Yeah, no, it was I guess it was close to a 2-hour flight total.
Okay, that's not horrible.
That decision was made relatively quickly. But yeah, I was lucky in a sense. I didn't have any checked baggage. I left the plane with with the overhead bag that I came in with. There were people who were sticking around because they were already going to get a different flight, but no, they had to get their luggage off the plane. Let me talk to someone. How do we do that? How do you get me off of this flight? They had to bring in the supervisors who have access to the computer who could, the regular gate agents don't have the ability to essentially be wizards of Delta and change things, like crazy. They had to bring in the people who could. I was booked on a flight for tomorrow. Then this pilot shows up and suddenly we're all rushing the desk. Like, can we get back on this flight? I was a bit worried for a second because the flight this morning was full and they were starting to backfill people from one of the later flights. Lucky for us, enough people had ditched that there were empty seats. I didn't have to worry, but you never know. I was lucky to have all my essentials with me. Who knows how the day could have gone.
Well, we're happy that you're back in Traverse City. You made it safely. Sorry you had to experience all of that, but Hey, I suppose things could always be worse. So, Danny, thanks so much for joining us on your day off and sharing your travel experience with us today. We do need to take a quick commercial break, but we've been talking a whole lot about the winter weather, and Joe Charlevoix has much more to tell us. So he will fill us in on what to expect the next couple of days in just a few minutes.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, we've been talking a lot about all the snow we've been seeing, and let's bring in our meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. And Joe, for northern Michigan, this seems pretty typical, but it almost feels more significant this year and like this past week because the past couple of years have been so mild.
Yeah, you remember it was, I want to say 2 winters ago, we had that big blizzard just before Christmas. Do you remember that one?
Yep, that was pretty intense.
That was memorable, but yeah, right. You know, since then,
not much.
Last winter was kind of a dud in terms of, you know, snow for people that love the, you know, the winter type weather.
Yeah.
And it had been pretty quiet for a while. I was kind of wondering if things were going to change, and then all of a sudden,
boom.
Yeah, it's really hit. Just a reminder, yeah, let's go to our winter storm warnings and advisories. Just to recap again, pink, winter storm warnings through tomorrow, potentially 4 to 10 inches of snow in some of these areas. And then on the other side of the state, outlined in purple, that's where winter weather advisories are in effect. So a warning is more significant than an advisory, but that is kind of the setup. Here is the old weather map tonight, drawing the highs and lows and where they're located and the frontal boundaries. And there it is. So we have 2 fronts, one down near Detroit, extending off this area of low pressure, and then a secondary cold front right over northern Michigan. That's where we have the snow right now. And then behind that, much colder air is spilling across Minnesota. That it will start feeding into lake effect snow. So the last few hours, here's radar around the north. You can see the snow passing through along our front. It's kind of picking up this evening. Here's a little closer look just in the past hour. So you go from, Oceana County, Newaygo County, all the way up to the Mackinac Bridge, pretty snowy. And then a little lake effect snow starting to pick up now near Lake Superior this evening. So here's what we're expecting with the timing on all this. There's Stormcast. So our front passes, and then here's the lake effect snow dumping in right there. So it could be a snowy one. I wouldn't be shocked at all if there are some school closings tomorrow. We'll see. You can get those on our website, UpNorthLive.com. And then there's the lake effect snow tomorrow. Now, again, if you're not in the snow belt areas, especially west of I-75, you're east of there, you might get some sun poking through at times. Then the lake effect snow dwindles down. We have another weak front coming in Friday, so maybe a little snow there, but it doesn't look like a whole lot of snow on Friday. It will be windy. Here's a look at the winds picking up tonight. So that's the other component to this. Yeah, we have the lake effect snow, but it will be windy tomorrow with the north wind. You see those 30, 40 mile per hour gusts. So there could be some widespread blowing snow tomorrow. And we'll add this up tonight, tomorrow, and then into Thursday night and Friday. And there's the 2-day snow total between now and then. Grayling, Cadillac, Bel Air, that region, Gaylord, Bel Air, as we mentioned, Bel Air, and then back up toward Newberry in the Quamanon Falls area, around Hulbert, for instance, some heavy snow coming in. There's the extended forecast. Now, there is a warm-up. I just mentioned that. We get into the 30s Saturday, Sunday, 40s, and Monday, maybe a little bit of rain. Now, that warm-up does not last. It looks like we get about 2 days of 40s, and then after that, we do drop back into the 30s, it looks like, with the return of some snow showers next Tuesday and Wednesday. By the way, 3 weeks from tonight, it's Christmas night.
Wow.
Yep.
Be here before you know it.
You got it.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Let's take another quick commercial break, but we will check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. I am not exactly sure what Harrison Beebe wants to talk about today, but there's a pretty big game tomorrow between the Lions and the Packers. I'm thinking maybe, Harrison, you want to talk about that?
No, Maya, we've talked about that already this week. No, really, let's just hone in on weather. That's what everybody's kind of buzzing about. Well, the weather affects my department because entering today, there were a whole bunch of games listed. High school basketball is obviously back now for boys and girls. All those games, at least in the close proximity to our Traverse City studios, pretty much wiped out for the night. They've been postponed. So this is something a lot of people, obviously a lot of time left in the season to reschedule these games, but a lot of stuff being moved around because of this winter weather that you and Danny and you and Joe have been talking about, and you and Cody as well. So UpNorthLive Weather Unscripted for today.
Pretty much, the weather special.
But you know me, I don't want to fill up my whole 2 minutes with weather. So let's talk about some college basketball. Big Ten play is back. And Maya, the Michigan Wolverines got a huge win last night. I think you saw me watching it at my computer last night before the news. Huge road win at the Kohl Center. Whenever you can beat Wisconsin on the road, and they were ranked. I didn't put the number 11 by Wisconsin in that graphic, but that's a top 11 ranked team that Michigan knocked off on the road. So the Wolverines are looking pretty good. They won the Fort Myers tip-off last week. And I saw some of the guys play last night. It's an efficient team. And tonight at 8:30, Tom Izzo's boys get Big Ten play started. Coming off that win over North Carolina last week in the consolation game of the Maui Invitational, they take on the Golden Gophers, another tough place to win. But we'll see if the Spartans can also start Big Ten play 1-0 with an 8:30 tip-off tonight.
And so we'll have highlights of that Michigan State game tonight at 11, I'm assuming. And since we didn't really get to talk about the Lions-Packers game, will you talk about that at 11 as well?
Sure. If people stay up for 11, we'll touch on them at 11.
All right, so you folks better stay up because there's a lot to talk about there with that matchup. All right, thanks so much, Harrison. Let's take one more quick commercial break, but we'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay with us. You're watching Up North Live Unscripted.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
We did not have a question of the day today, so no live results to show you. So sorry about that. We just wanted to focus on the winter weather and making sure you are all informed on the road conditions and the different travel delays and headaches that might be coming with this winter weather. And we'll have much more on the very latest on the winter weather tonight on Up North Live News at 11. So we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for joining us on Up North Live Unscripted. Take care, everyone, and be safe out there.